What's going on, peeps? It's Wrath here, hanging out today, playing some Idle Heroes. I want to thank you guys so much for coming to hang out with me today. If you liked the video, don't forget, smash that thumbs up button and show your support. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe as well. Alright guys, we're here today on the Big Daddy account to talk about the new events. But before we jump into that, there's a new patron on the channel. And today's patron is Jose Ramos. I feel like super confident in that one, and it's nice. It's not, I'm probably wrong, but it feels good to feel like I know what I'm saying. But anyways, Jose Ramos, thank you for your support to the channel. It does mean a lot to me, and I very much appreciate it. You help keep the YouTube dream alive, and that's always nice. Definitely nice for me. But anyways, we've got some stuff to talk about today. There's some new events. Before we jump into the new events, there is some changes. There has been changes. Server merges. That's not what we're going for. We're going down here. All right. Get to it. Let's get to it. Delicious. All right, your team lineups. If you guys play more than one server, I do. I play two. Well, that's what I play. I play three, I guess, once a week. I get on like S1 to check the events. But anyways, your team lineups can now be saved when you switch servers or accounts. That's super freaking handy. Especially like if you guys don't know about the struggles, it's a struggle. All right. Every time you go to do a boss fight, you've got to reset your lineups. When you do your brave trial, you always reset your lineups. But like your tower, everything you do, you have to reset your lineup every single time because you swapped accounts. Well, you swap accounts, multiple times a day. You're always resetting your lines, literally always. So this is great. I'm super happy about it. Super duper happy. That's a good thing. Also, they added a skip battle button to the Tower of Oblivion. This is also nice. Another good change, because that was one place, like especially later on in the game, it wasn't so much going to be like a changing position of your heroes or, getting an upgrade that was going to allow you to beat a wave. Sometimes it just comes down to the RNG. Like you're waiting for a stun to proc right. You already know your lineup's not going to get any better in the foreseeable future. So sitting there just kind of having to literally watch every single battle over and over again was super monotonous. At least now you can just skip it. You can be like, nope, we're just going to next it. And if I lose, I lose. I can blast through my 10 energy in like 5 seconds. Really good change. Super awesome. Glad that's a thing. But also, this is nice. Optimize the order of your monsters. That was always annoying. Like for me, having the snake as one of my max monsters, I always had to scroll through them to find them, to put them on my lines. Now it's not a thing. If you go and can I do one real quick? Just like to fake a battle. Monster. My maxed monsters are right here in the front. Super fantastic. Means they're always readily accessible. I ain't got to scroll over anymore and find them. They're just, bam, they're right there. Super nice. Really happy about that. Another quality of life change that I definitely wanted. But, whilst we're on the topic of things that have been changed, these are good changes, mind you. There are a couple things that I still think need big changes. And I would say right now, straight away, one of the most important things that need to be changed, like in my eyes, is right here. Pray for Fire. It's kind of a joke. Like, I'll be honest with you, the last couple bosses we fought in the Pray for Fire haven't lasted more than like 3 hours. They pop up, people jump on, and we one-shot them to death. It's a joke. They're not really in-game bosses anymore for people that have in-game teams. Pray for Fire is just a little bit too easy, I think. I think it needs a difficulty buff. Or something. It's got to have something. And also, while we're on the subject of Pray for Fire bosses being a little too easy, if you want to make them super easy, you need to change the method of getting the boss. Okay? I understand you don't want to have people just spawning bosses back to back to back to back to back and farming like 1 trillion guild coins. Completely understood. But if the way it's set up right now, you have to, if you want to get them as fast as possible, you have to spend gems. And not just one person. The entire guild has to spend gems to get your boss turned around as fast as possible. The problem is when you get these weak pansy level bosses popping up here, and 2 people smash it and kill it, the rest of the guild has spent, all their gems to get this boss as fast, get nothing. Like you literally get absolute dog crap for rewards, and it's not good. It doesn't show the rewards there. It's bad. It's not good if you miss the boss. So instead of doing it like this, which I think is an absolutely obtuse and kind of stupid system anyways, what they ought to do is just have a cooldown timer. Okay, like you kill a boss, start the cooldown timer. Once it dies, like in 72 hours, a new boss will spawn. And then just use the old system you did for the raids. Like when you went into battle, you get 2 free battles and then 2 battles for gems. I don't know why they decided to swap it over for Pray for Fire, but it was a really bad system. Like I didn't know it because I didn't use it. But once I got into a guild that actually uses the system, I realized it is a very poor system for guild coins. Not to mention it's just really not well designed. I think this needs to kind of, get dumped. Like, kick this whole system out. And if you want to put a timer in between bosses, which I understand, you don't want people like top end guilds being able to farm like 1 trillion guild coins in a minute. Obviously, that would not work. But yeah, put a timer after you kill the boss, like in 72 hours, the new boss will be up. Make them a little stronger so they're actually in-game content. And just change the battle system back. If you want to have a gym, cost associated with battles, put it back in. Or maybe only allow 3 battles a day from your teammates. Or only 1 battle. I don't care. Just some different way of running it than this right now, because this is not, and I quote, not ideal. It's not in-game, and it's just not that great. But anyways, enough about that. It's not a change that actually took place. It's just one that needs to take place. Let's actually talk about the events today. Let's get to it. So this is still running if you guys are a little late to the game. You got 7 days of rewards that you can collect. If you're starting just now, you're not going to get them all. Hate to break it to you. But if you did miss a day or 2 in between, the event, not a big deal. You can still snag them all out. It's good stuff. Brings us down to the value packages. And in this area, you're going to notice there's cotton candy. Delicious cotton candy. Actually, I never really liked cotton candy that much. It always made me sick. It's just sugar. It's straight up sugar whipped into a fuzzy, foam. But whatever. That's not important. That's the packages, which tells you pretty much straight away this is going to be an event item exchange week, which is, let's be honest, boring. This week's going to be pretty boring. These always are. Wishing coin events followed by these events are the 2 most boring events in the game, and they run back to back, so you get a full 2 weeks of not a lot of action. Woohoo! Let's get to it. But anyways, value package is not super important if you want to get some of these extra cotton candies, which you will need if you're going for the top tier reward. Other than that, you don't necessarily need to buy it anyway. Anyways, the cotton candy cart, CCC, triple C's, delicious. All lowercase, by the way. Not sure why. It's just a thing. Everything else capitalized properly. This one, no. Not even time to capitalize things, peeps. We don't have time for that. Benny Hoodles, the event. Let's get to it. So the top Big Daddy reward for the event's the Augustus Magic Ball. I used to think it was a pretty crappy artifact, and until block gets changed for a vast majority of units, it's still not going to be hyper useful. It does provide the highest speed boost in the game, I'm 92% sure, when maxed. It also gives you attack, which is great, but it adds block. Block was pretty trash until a couple of units used it. Units like Shia really benefit from this artifact. Horus doesn't necessarily need it when you have max gear on him. It probably still wouldn't be bad, but you don't necessarily need a fast Horus. A fast Shia is more important in my opinion. But anyways, there's not a lot of units that really utilize block heavily, but getting the extra speed, the fast speed in this case, and the attack percentage is nice for a large host of units. So any kind of really fast unit you want to be even faster, this isn't bad on. However, this is something you will not get for free. I've never seen a single free-to-play player, even if they got like the best RNG ever, reach this kind of area of event items. There might be someone out there who has. I've just never met one of them. I have seen free-to-play players reach to 3,000, some to 2,700 obviously, but most of them end around this range. 2,500 to 2,700 is where most of your free-to-play players that get on every 10 hours and collect are going to end up. Most of them. If you get really lucky, you might get the 3,000 reward. If you don't get lucky, you might end up just short of Jarrah, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It really isn't that bad of a deal. So we'll talk about the heroes in a moment. We actually go over the heroes of the event. I would never recommend you buy skins from these events. It's kind of a waste of these deals. I mean, if you really love the skin, maybe, but you're better off, in my opinion, to go with the orbs over everything else. I mean, pretty much. And if you really need one of these heroes, obviously, if you want a Belrain's very much worth. If you really need a King Barton, you can snag it. Not a bad deal. But if you're not quite to Jarrah, or if you're not building Jarrah and you have 2,500 coins, or cotton candies, instead of wasting them on a Jarrah, you're better off grabbing the orbs. They're the best things you can get from these events. Heroic scrolls have a little bit lower of a return rate for actually buying them, so I wouldn't recommend you go for them. Super chips, not super great. I mean, I know I've broke the RNG scales a couple of times and they look better than they are. They really aren't that great. They have a really low drop chance, like 1 in 185 chips to get a 5-star hero, or the ultimate 5-star hero, whatever. You're better off going orbs. Every time, if you have an extra of these left over, go orbs. Grab the orbs. The orbs is the most important thing from this event, unless you really need one of these copies and can buy one. There you go. So that's pretty much all there is for cotton candy. Every 10 hours, collect your loot. That's kind of the gist, because that's how the loot caps up now. It used to cap at 8 hours. Not anymore. Now it's 10, which is nice. Nice little change. I'm happy with that, actually. It makes it much less stressful to go to sleep and be like, I'm going to miss like an hour of loot if I don't wake up perfectly on time, or if I wake up and have something to do. Now, not a big deal. You got 10 hours. So that's hot news. But anyways, that's pretty much the gist of the cotton candy cart thingy. It's mainly for profit orbs, unless you really need a hero. Like if I get 3,000, absolutely buying Belrain, 110%. But if I don't get 3,000, I don't really care for King Barton on this account, not building a Jarrah on this account. I will buy all orbs, and I will use those to do a double completion in the next profit orb event and make much more progress. But anyways, there we go. Moving on, the Mysterious Chest. Another one of those events that really doesn't necessarily need a weekly event slot, but it has one. So, I mean, you know, whatever. I feel like both of these events right here should be supporting events. They should be like the Heroic Miracle almost. Like Heroic Miracle is a nice event, but by itself, it's not super fantastic. It works really good with Profit Orb event. It kind of supports it. So I would say these two events ought to be shuffled around and just put behind other events, or make two good main events that you can throw these behind, like an actual new progress-based event. I don't care if it's just like a super coin event with really good rewards for spending super chips. The game needs another big progress week. These are not. These are not that. But anyways, as always, we'll go through these. 5 Heroic Scrolls, 5,000 Promotion Stones for 500 gems. Not a bad deal for new players when Promotion Stones are kind of a holdup. If you're really new to a server, you know that there's a chokehold on these. Later down the road, you usually end up with more than you need. But right when you're starting, those things right there are like, I'd say like gold, but gold's already kind of a thing. I don't know, they're like diamonds. Actually, diamonds are already a thing. I don't know, they're valuable, okay? You get the gist. But it also comes with 5 scrolls, and that's nice. It's actually the cheapest you can buy scrolls in the game. At 500 gems, it equals out to 100 gems per scroll, not to mention you get the promotion stones too. It's a really nice little chest for new players who need that promotion stones, and also, you get some scrolls. Not a bad deal. Moving down, we've got the Super Chip chest that comes with 2 pieces of 4-star gear. I used to think this was a really bad deal, and it used to be. I think it used to be 2,000 gems. They've brought the cost down, which is really good. It made sense. A lot of these chests used to be very overpriced. I think they've brought this down into an area where it's actually feasible to buy it now, personally. The 4-star gear is nice. The super chips are just kind of like nice supporting loot. You don't really like ever depend on super chips for anything right now, unless they drop a super chip event, which whatever, they could. But yeah, the gear is the main reason to buy that chest. But this brings us to, I would say, the most important chest of the event for pretty much any player. I mean, some might argue it's 6,000. I still think this chest is one of the most important chests there is. It gives you 8 profit orbs, which is fantastic. 2-piece 4-star gear. Obviously, that's going to be nice when it comes to the King Dwarves event or whatever. Not that you should fuse up the 4-star gear and the 5-star gear from the event. I usually don't. I like to get the 4-star gear from events and then fuse it to 5-star gear on my own and then use the King Dwarves Blessing event to take it to 6-star and then a 6-star class gear. That's just how I like to do it. But the big thing here is the Profit Orbs. If you guys don't know, Profit Orb event is generally the event that allows the most progress on any team. Heroic Scrolls are great. They're nice for progress. They're a little harder to come by. They cost a lot to get 500 of them to complete events. Orbs are generally the safest bet because, one, you get a target a faction that you can use your orbs in, which is fantastic. If you want to build Abyss units, you can target them and get them with orbs, and that's great. It helps you make progress in your team. It's really important. I would still say this is the best chest there was. It was still the best chest on offer when it was 3,000 gems. The fact they've lowered it down to 2,400 gems just makes it an even better deal. Pick it up. It's worth your time. You're going to want it. That brings us down to the 4,000 chest. The 4,000 chest, in my opinion, isn't that great, and in most cases, it's not. If this was a Valkyrie, somebody out there would say, totally worth it's a Valkyrie. Maybe, if you really wanted a Valkyrie that bad, it might be. I think the reason it's not a really good chest is because of these. Magic Dust is nice, but you get a buttload of it during the game, and for me at least, it's never really a holdup. I've got probably 100,000 dust laying around right now. Lies, I have almost 400,000 dust just chilling. I don't need it. I mean, I could use it, I'm sure, for like upgrading somebody's stone, but I've got C6 stones on most of my dudes that are E3. My 10 stars don't necessarily have them, but they're 10 star. It's not really a huge deal. I mean, I could upgrade a couple, but whatever. Like I said, it's generally not a huge roadblock for you, the magic dusts. So to make this chest worth 4,000 gems, I would say this needs to be swapped for something that's actually a little bit more useful all around. It doesn't necessarily need to be like scrolls or orbs, but I mean, just something else. Magic Dust is, I mean, it's nice, it's handy, but it doesn't, in my opinion, make any hero worth 4,000 gems to throw Magic Dust with them. Make the secondary thing even appealing. Like, even if you threw like an exclusive skin for the hero that was actually being offered, that's at least something. Like if you had Hartwatcher and Hartwatcher skin, okay, that's cool. You can at least use that for something. It's kind of exclusive, but I don't know. For right now, I just don't think it's really ever worth it. I might pick it up. I have a big excess of gems on the mini account just for the copy, but I don't know. Probably not. And that brings us to the last chest. This is what a lot of people say is the best chest. I would still say it best a tie. I would say this right here is still super important, but this is definitely a great chest. Don't get me wrong. For 6,000 gems, you nab an orange artifact, which is great. I wish they would have kept it at the exclusive orange artifact because that was hot. That was a really good event. But anyways, even just regular orange artifacts are still light years beyond regular red artifacts. They're really nice. They're kind of rare, but you also get 25,000 guild coins. And especially with how bad Pray for Fire is right now, being as like guild bosses pop up for like 30 minutes before they're dead, guild coins are very hard to get late game. So if you don't have a lot of your tech maxed, this is the main way you're probably going to get them, is once a month, you get 25,000 guild coins. So very much worth for the guild coins alone. The orange artifact, icing on the cake. And in this case, we even get a skin, the Golden Age skin for King Barton. Kind of cool. Kingly looking dwarf. I like it. I'm down. Pretty solid. And KB being a pretty solid unit that's used pretty heavily. Not bad. Not bad. So definitely a really good chest. If you're in the low gem area, like you're probably like, I'm not going to make it 6,000 gems, I would definitely prioritize this. And after that, I'd prioritize this just so you get that full 4-star set. It is kind of important. And for 3,600 gems, you can grab them both. Not bad. Not a bad deal. So like I said, these events are nice in terms of being like, in my opinion, a supplemental event. But they need a new Big Daddy event to go with them. They need a new event that people actually look forward to. Nobody sits around and says, you know what I can't wait for? The next item exchange event. I just cannot wait for a week to spin those things. Nobody says that. They're always like, dude, I need Prophet Orb to come back around. I need Heroic Summons to come around. I've got to get some progress on my team. These events just do not add progress, and that's why I think they're really boring, and they're actually kind of bad for the game, because you get 2 weeks of fun, and then you get like 2 weeks of like heavy downtime, where like the most imaginative event they came up with is, I guess we could make them gather campaign loot all week. Like you weren't already doing it anyways. You were already going to grab your campaign loot. So whatever, I don't know. They just seem like they need an extra good event to pop up somewhere. Like I don't care, leave the casino event as it is, that's fine. But there needs to at least be one more event that people actually look forward to. These aren't it. And to be totally honest, I'd rather they took Mysterious Chest out of the weekly rotation and throw it as a monthly event. I mean, you could increase the cost of all the chests. You could boost the rewards for all the chests, and then players have an entire month to come together and scrape up the gems, whether that's through buying them or through events, to actually buy what they wanted. So I love the monthly event section. I think it's fantastic. It was a really important change to the game that I think made the game much more playable. I just feel like this right here does not constitute a weekly event. It's not worth it. Personally, I don't think it is. It should be swapped over to monthly events, bump the costs up, like make this cost 2,500 gems, or make this cost 1,000 or 1,500 gems, and just triple the loot that's in it. Something like that. Make it more worthwhile. Instead of giving 4-star gear and 5 super chips, double or triple the cost and make it 2-piece 5-star gear and 15 super chips. You know what I'm saying? Like, just, there's no reason to make a weekly event out of something that people are either going to do in a split second or just kind of save up the whole week to buy one chest. In my opinion, this is where it belongs. But whatever, that's not important. That's the events covered. I guess we can talk about the heroes now. What do we got on offer? We've got Bellring, King Barton, Jarrah, and Hartwatcher. That shouldn't be too bad to cover. Let's hop over here. Wrong button. Bang. Here we go. Jarrah. We'll start out with Jarrah because she's in shadow, and I always start at the very left and work my way right. It's just the way I like to do it. But anyways, Jarrah. She's a mage. It's thing. All right? She's a pretty solid unit. I've never built one on official. I did have one on the private server a long time ago before everything got jumbled and changed over there, and I totally quit playing it. But Jarrah's a pretty solid unit. She's mainly used in PvP because she has decent crowd control chance. We'll read through the skills a little bit. She deals 235% of her attack as damage against 4 random enemies, poisons them for 2 rounds, dealing 100% of her attack as damage each round. Meanwhile, has a 20% chance to freeze the target for 2 rounds, and a 20% chance to petrify the target for 2 rounds as well. Back in my younger days, I thought that was a 40% chance of crowd control. It is not. Apparently, it's like 30-something% because math is weird, but whatever. It's not a big deal. She has crowd control and pretty decent damage drop. 235% of her attack. That's not bad. That's pretty heavy damage. But splitting the chance between freeze and petrify is actually kind of handy if you run against units that have an immunity to one or the other. You don't see a lot of corpse demons in PvP, but you do see a lot of Kamaths. So if you can bypass Kamath's petrify immunity and hit him with a freeze, this kind of makes her pretty nice there. Plus, she hits pretty hard. So nice in PvP, does have limited PvE use. Anyways, her basic attack hits 2 random enemies, deals 120% of her attack as damage, and has a 100% chance to steal 15% of the target's attack for 3 rounds. Attack steal is pretty handy. It makes your enemies hit less hard, it makes you hit harder. And this is useful in a lot of situations. Really hard pray for fire bosses like Sigmund and such, stealing their attack is pretty important. It's very important in my opinion. And even on harder marauders and such, having that attack steal does come in handy in PvE, but also, of course, when it comes to PvP, if you can nerf the attack of your enemies, they're not going to hit you as hard. If they're not hitting you as hard, that's always a good deal for you. So not a bad deal there. Third passive here, just kind of your run-of-the-mill passive, attack, crit, and HP. Having crit chance is nice. Does mean she can nuke a little bit harder, which is always a good deal. The last passive here is where she kind of gets some Aspen usage. When she takes skill damage, she has a 50% chance to heal herself for 280% of her attack as HP. It's a pretty big heal, by the way, when you have her maxed out. And a 50% chance to increase her own energy by 30%. That is pretty useful when you get hit by skill damage, obviously. However, in PvP, depending on the skill damage, you might get petrified or whatnot, or frozen, whatever it could be. That's never a good deal, but at least if she does get hit by skill damage, she has a chance to have something good happen for her. Most people just get hit. That's what most units do. Like, it's skill damage. Congratulations, you're taking damage. At least in Jarrah's case, she has a chance to heal a little bit and a chance to gain some energy back, so it's pretty handy. I've heard of people reaching Hell with an E3 Jarrah. I don't know how far into Hell an E3 Jarrah could potentially push, but she does have some limited use in PvE at least. Not super heavy boss damage from everybody I've heard. She hits kind of weak against bosses. But again, the attack steal has some viability there. All around a pretty solid unit that a lot of people build from Shadow. So if you are building a Shadow unit, Horus, Kamath, and Jarrah, probably your big 3 units you're going to build. Boom. Moving on, who else was there? There was King Barton, I know that much. There was Brain. There was Hartwatcher, Brain, Belrain. Okay, so we're on track. All right. We're good, peeps. Move to King Barton here. King Barton. It's thing. All right, so if you haven't heard about King Barton, you probably never played the seasonal server. Back when I used to play that, he was literally everywhere. Everybody built King Barton. And even on the official server now that he got buffed, he's been used quite a lot. So the big thing about King Barton is, one, he's pretty awesome. He's a dwarf. So immediately like plus 10 cool points. Anyways, he does 210% of his attack as damage against backline enemies. Not a really huge deal, but it's a thing. Meanwhile, he boosts his self-reduced damage by 35% and attack by 40% for 3 rounds. He doesn't have a huge amount of attack, but a lot of warriors don't. The big thing is he gets a nice chunk of reduced damage for free. This makes him pretty tanky, and that's not the only thing. Moving over, his basic attack targets 4 random enemies, dealing 125% of his attack as damage, but also has a 25% chance to stun the targets for 2 rounds. That's pretty handy. Anytime a basic attack has a crowd control built on it, that's pretty strong, especially in PvP, Tower of Oblivion, things like that. E3 King Barton can even do really well in the Aspen dungeon when he gets that resilience passive. But having a chance to stun your basic attack is great. It means you get to open up a battle with a chance to stun your enemy. Now, obviously, this doesn't work against bosses because they're immune, but it's still handy. It's still a very handy thing to have. Second passive here, boost HP, attack, control immune by 35%. That's a big deal. Control immunity is fantastic, but he also deals an extra 100% of his attack as damage against stunned foes. Well, since he stuns people, he gets an extra damage boost out of it. Plus, he has a nice little control immunity buff built in, and his active skill gives him reduced damage. He's a very tanky unit, and it's really nice. But the big reason people use King Barton is right here. When he gets hit by any kind of damage, he has a 100% chance. I don't know why they even put that in there. He will deal 150% of his attack as damage against all enemies. That's really handy, especially if one of those enemies is stunned because he does extra damage to them. This happens anytime he's hit. So you generally run King Barton in the 1 slot because when he gets hit, he's going to counterattack. It's really handy. And he can do that up to 6 times. So you can potentially wipe out a team, all of their weak units with a King Barton in like the first round of battle because they're going to pretty much kill themselves by attacking him. Now, obviously, later game when everybody's E3, you're not going to kill them with King Barton in round 1. Of course not. They're not that squishy anymore. but he still puts out a huge amount of damage because of this passive. Coupled with his extra damage to stun foes, his chance to stun foes, he pairs well with stun units like Cruz, which is why you do see a lot of King Bartons in the All Abyss teams. Of course, you kind of have to because he's Abyss. But you're seeing King Bartons paired with Cruz a lot because Cruz is going to drop that stun. You also see him paired with Valentino a lot because Valentino has a stun. Anytime you stun people, he's going to do more damage, and it is pretty nice. All around, a really solid unit. Not so great against bosses. He doesn't have very high boss damage. He does have pretty high survivability, so he might outlive some of your more quote-unquote boss damage units and do more damage. But most of the time, if you have an E3 unit that's obviously built for boss fighting, it will outdamage King Barton every time. But very good PvP unit, very solid in the Tower of Oblivion, and even once you get to E3, pretty solid in the Aspen Dungeon as well with that resilience passive kicking in. So that's King Barton. Moving over. Eeny, meeny, money, Hartwatcher. Bam! Hartwatcher. She can fly. It's a thing. But anyways, Hartwatcher. If you don't know about Hartwatcher, I don't know where you've been. She's been around for a long time. Everybody knows about Hartwatcher. Her big role is support. She's a support unit. She's not necessarily an offensive unit you use to like kill people and break things. What you use her for is to boost your team's damage so that everybody hits harder and everybody breaks things, and that's what you want. So anyways, her active skill, it hits pretty hard. I mean, if you built her for attack, which nobody does, she does 255% of her attack as damage against 2 random enemies, reduces their attack by 25% for 2 rounds. That's very important. Definitely helps against heavy hitting bosses, because obviously when you're reducing enemy attack, that means they hit a little less hard, and it helps your entire team survive. But her big thing comes in after that. She's also going to tag them with a Watcher mark. Her Watcher mark increases the target's taken damage by 45%, and they stack to a max of 300%. So once you reach 300% extra damage, they don't overlay anymore. It's just she's going to start hitting them. But essentially that does a ton for your team. It adds a bunch of damage to your team because now, by the time I think it's round 8 or whatever at 10 star, she will have the max amount of Watcher marks laid on the enemy, so they're taking 300% increased damage, or 4 times normal damage, which means your team hits really, really hard. It's great for getting those max boss damage numbers. She's required. If you're wanting to go for top boss damage, you gotta have a Hartwatcher. It's just gotta be a thing. Her first passive here boosts her attack, crit, and HP. Little run-of-the-mill passive there with 30% crit, though, which is really nice because it pairs well with this. Anytime she lands a critical strike, basic attack or active, she's going to... I don't know why it says 100% chance. That's ridiculous. Why did they put this in there? She's going to heal herself for 280% of her attack as HP. She has a pretty high base attack stat, by the way, too, 34,000. So by the time you get her to E3... that's going to heal her for a decent amount, not to mention she's making the enemies hit less hard and making your team hit harder. She's just all around fantastic for bosses, and that brings us to her last skill, boop. Her basic attack is going to hit 2 random enemies, and it's, or is random enemies. I thought it was, no, shh, calm down. 2 random enemies, deals 110% of her attack as damage and also tags them with a Watcher mark. However, this Watcher mark is a little bit weaker at 35%. So to maximize Hartwatcher's immediate burst for your team, you do run an energy artifact on her. It gives her 10% extra damage, 10% extra damage taken by the enemy at round 1. Plus, you're also going to reduce their attack on round 1. It is generally better to run an energy artifact on Hartwatcher. However, they are a little rare. If you don't have one, it's not a big deal. You can run a crit-based artifact or something to really maximize her healing. It's not going to break the game for you. You'll just lose a little bit of damage right out the gate. So anyways, solid unit. Definitely built for bosses. You can run her in the Aspen Dungeon because she does have a critical strike that does heal her. And if you build her for crit, she's going to crit very often. she will very often land critical hits. But yeah, definitely a nice unit. I know my 10-star got me to Nightmare before, so she can definitely get you places in the Aspen Dungeon. It's not bad. She does struggle against damage over time nodes, as a lot of units do. Bloodblades kind of eat her alive. Stun nodes, any kind of crowd control really puts a damper on her too, like Walter. Not fun to fight a Walter with a Hartwatcher. But anyways, that's Hartwatcher. If you're doing boss fights, you need her. If you're doing PvP, you still need her because you got to do boss damage sometime. All right? She's a must build. Got to have one. Anyways, moving on, the last one here is Belrain. Belrain. Probably the most broken healer in the game right now. Definitely the most broken healer in the game right now. I've heard people say she's going to get nerfed. I don't know. People say a lot of things. Valk was supposed to be nerfed 6 months ago. Scary was supposed to be nerfed like 3 years ago. They haven't been. So I don't know if she'll get nerfed. I don't think she necessarily needs it. We do need a good healer in the game. Belrain fills that slot, and she's a light hero, so she's not super easy to build. I don't get why they would nerf it. Doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But anyways, Belrain. Belrain, active skill, deals 182% of attack as damage, not important, against 4 random enemies, which again, like I said, her damage, not what you build Belrain for. But she's going to boost 4 random allies' attack by 30%, that's pretty nasty, speed by 30, and their effect of being healed by 20%. That's a big deal. Right there, that makes her the best healer in the game because no one else has that. Vesta just does not heal E3 units very well. Belrain can. And on top of healing them, or boosting their effect of being healed, she does heal as well, we'll get to that. But she boosts attack, which is fantastic in PvE and in PvP. Having more attack is never a bad thing, and also makes you faster. Now this doesn't really help you against boss fights at all, but when it comes to PvP, having your team with an extra 30 speed can be the difference between you winning and losing. It really can be. If you get those attacks out first, it can be a difference maker. Very important. Very important. Moving on. Bam. Her first passive, increase HP by 30%, attack by 45%, and control immune by 20%. Now, she's not super control immune, obviously, only 20%, but any form of control immunity at all is still handy for any unit, especially in PvP, but even in areas like PvE, where a boss may have some kind of crowd control effect, it's nice to be able to dodge it. It just is. So pretty handy passive. She didn't used to have control immunity. That got added to her a while back. Really nice change. Moving on, her second passive, her basic attack heals 3 random allies for 250% of her attack for 3 rounds. Now this is powerful in a couple of ways. One, she already has a pretty high attack stat. 31,000 base, almost 32. But when you add in her active skill, has a potential chance to land on herself, giving her 30% extra attack. That heal gets even bigger, and it's already a big heal. 250% of your attack as heal is nice, and it's a lasting, and it's on a basic attack. So if she does get silenced, she can still heal your team. So people that run Demon Hunter, doesn't really affect Belrain at all. If you get silenced, she actually still helps your team a lot. So that's good passive. That's strong. It's good. And that brings us to the last passive. Bam. Light of Souls. Oh, when she dies, if she dies, when she dies, she'll die. She heals all allies for 300% of her attack as HP for 5 rounds. Again, that's really freaking good. So even if your Belrain does bite the dust, which she might in harder boss fights, probably not. If your team can keep her alive, generally they can. But anyways, if she does die normally in PvP, this gives your team a nice little burst of survivability for 5 rounds. And being at 300% of her attack, already a pretty high attack stat, potentially boosted by her active skill, that heal right there can be a huge difference maker between you lasting till your monster drops or until you get another active skill, or one of your units getting bursted to death and dying and you kind of just going down the rabbit hole towards death. It's handy. So right now, Belrain, absolutely, in my opinion, the best light hero to build in the game. I don't know what the new one's going to be when it drops next week or the week after, I don't know. Or maybe even later, whatever. But Belrain right now, definitely the number 1 choice for light. Really solid unit, very good, mucho good. I like my Belrain, me gusta, all right? Look at my Spanish. Look at my Spanish, it's great. It's great. Channeling my inner Spanish, man. Good stuff. But those are the heroes from the event. That's the event overview. That is going to be it for today. There's nothing else to really talk about. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you liked the video, please make sure, smash that thumbs up button and show your support. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe as well and tell your friends about it because that definitely helps me out a lot. And I will see you guys in the next one.